When a taxi driver kicked a man out of his car for wearing a red MAGA hat, he thought he was making a bold statement. Little did he know that he had just humiliated the state governor himself. A viral video made him a social media hero for a day, but by the next, he found himself at the center of a shocking scandal. The way the governor handled the situation not only changed public opinion about him, but also forced everyone to reconsider their own biases. On a sunny morning, as suburban streets came alive under the whisper of the wind and the songs of birds, Jonathan Reed was wrapping up his usual morning jog. Despite being the governor of the state, his appearance was modest. A simple sports jacket, jeans, and a red MAGA cap. A symbol of his convictions and pride in America. This cap, a birthday gift from his children, had become more than just an accessory. It was an expression of his commitment to free speech and an open declaration of his values. As he headed home, he summoned a taxi via an app. When the car arrived, Jonathan quickly noticed the driver, a young man in his 30s with a thick beard and a sharp gaze, eyeing him with evident disapproval. The moment Jonathan settled into the back seat, the driver's eyes landed on the cap, and his expression immediately shifted. His lips tightened, and his brows furrowed in irritation. "Is this a joke?" the driver asked rudely, turning to face him. "Do you really think you can wear that hat in my car?" Jonathan, accustomed to encountering diverse opinions, remained calm and replied, "I need to get to the capital. Are you going to drive me?" The driver crossed his arms, pausing deliberately to make his displeasure known. "People like you don't ride in my car," he said coldly, gesturing toward the door. "Get out, with your hat." Jonathan smiled faintly, but his eyes betrayed disappointment. He attempted to explain that everyone has a right to their views, but the driver raised his voice, drawing the attention of passers-by. "People like you are ruining this country! Get out, I said!" A crowd began to gather, some pulling out their phones to record the altercation. Jonathan, aware that escalating the dispute would only worsen the situation, quietly exited the car. The driver seemed to revel in his moment of fame, unaware that his actions would soon backfire. Within hours, footage of the incident had gone viral. Susan, Jonathan's energetic assistant, was barely keeping up with the flood of comments and calls. She sat in the spacious governor's office, scrolling through social media on her tablet, while her boss calmly sipped coffee. "Just look at how quickly this is spreading," she said, turning the screen toward him. "The driver clearly thinks he's a hero." In the video, the driver proudly recounted how he taught a Republican a lesson by kicking him out of his car. The comments were polarizing. Some praised the driver for his boldness, while others condemned his intolerance. "What do you think?" Susan asked, studying Jonathan's reaction. "I think it's time to show people that bias always backfires on those who practice it," he replied with a faint smile. "Get in touch with the taxi company. I've got an idea." Susan grinned. She knew her boss never let such incidents pass without teaching a lesson that everyone would remember. She quickly dialed the number and began arranging a meeting with the company's management. Taxi driver Mark had been noticing all morning that his colleagues at the company office were giving him odd looks. There were whispers and nods in his direction, enough to make him uneasy, though he couldn't figure out why, until his manager called him in. The elderly man, with gray hair and a stern expression, sat behind a massive desk, looking at Mark as though he were a teenager caught breaking the rules. "Mark," the manager began, pulling up a video on his laptop screen, "do you know who the person you kicked out of your car yesterday was?" Mark, still brimming with confidence, shrugged and smirked. "Who cares? Just another MAGA fan." The manager leaned back in his chair, narrowing his eyes. "That MAGA fan is the governor of our state." Mark's face dropped as if he'd been doused with cold water. His previous bravado vanished in an instant. He stammered, trying to defend himself. I didn't know. I just..." The manager cut him off, leaving no room for excuses. "Today, the governor wants to meet with you personally, and don't expect this to be a pleasant conversation." Mark felt his knees go weak. Slowly, he got up from the chair and, under the disapproving gazes of his colleagues, headed toward the conference room where he was expected. The spacious conference room, with its panoramic windows and massive wooden table, was cloaked in tense silence. Jonathan sat at the table, calm and self-assured, He was once again wearing the same MAGA cap, which now seemed to symbolize not just his beliefs, but also the triumph of fairness. Mark entered, feeling like a defendant in court. "Mark," Jonathan began with a friendly smile. "Have a seat. Let's talk." Mark sank into a chair, avoiding the governor's gaze. He had no idea what to expect. "Do you believe in freedom of speech and the right of everyone to their own opinions?" Jonathan asked, his voice steady and calm. "Yes, of course," Mark mumbled, feeling increasingly uncomfortable. "Then why did you decide you could deny someone service because of a hat?" Jonathan continued. "You're not just representing yourself, you're also representing the company you work for." Mark stayed silent. He had no argument to make. "I don't want you to lose your job," Jonathan said. "In fact, I want you to become an example of how mistakes can be corrected." Jonathan proposed that the company organize a public event promoting tolerance. Mark, having no other choice, agreed to issue a public apology. At the event, he gave a speech acknowledging his mistake. The video of Mark's apology quickly gained traction online, and Jonathan's remark, "Next time, I suggest you find out who's getting into your car first," became a viral meme. This incident served as a lesson not just for Mark, but for many others as well. Jonathan proved that even in the most tense situations, it's possible to rise above and lead with integrity.